Yo, 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 SuperFlexers. It's the SuperFlex Fantasy Football Show starring yours truly, Kedz the Canuck. Got my guys with me here tonight. I've got the King of Pop, a.k.a. Nomad. We also got the dude, my guy, Nick, the producer, hanging out with us. We're having an awesome conversation. I had to tell these dudes to shut their mouths and save it for the show. And here we are. So let's jump right into it without any further ado. Big love to all you guys for showing up and showing out with us. Big shout out to you, Naj. I see you out there, my dude, Naj. Always respect and love to you guys, all the super no maniacs out there and the super flexers. In any event, let's start to chop it up about this whole situation with everybody's favorite ex Las Vegas Raider Davante Adams. And Nick, you sort of started it out, so I'm gonna throw things over to you, my brother. Let's what's your take on the Davante Adams situation?
He's being screwed again, in my opinion. So let's take a look back. So the first time he gets traded, he goes to the Raiders. First year for McDaniels, it doesn't go as well as they thought it would. They didn't make the playoffs or nothing. The following season, the Raiders decide to blow everything up because they had a slow start. They fire the coach. They end up letting go of Derek Carr. They let go of Derek Carr before that season even started. So Davante doesn't even get to play with the guy he wanted to play with.
No, he did. You're wrong. That was like
season.
That was a part of the conversation. So that first season, he did play with Derek Carr, and they had a good thing going on, I would have to say. And
despite the team not doing so well everywhere else, they did play well. That was the highlight of that entire Raiders season, was the chemistry between those two. However, it wasn't enough to save the rest of the team. Then Davante Adams has to play with Jimmy G and Aiden O'Connell, barely gets the ball, and he's having some issues, and he wants out. Now he's finally out. He's now going to a team without a head coach who's on the cusp of blowing it all up yet again if they don't make a playoff run. He's being screwed twice.
That is a pretty interesting way of looking at it. He just left one bad situation
to another,
and jumped on a bus to an even potentially an even worse situation. Right. So
he's basically coming there to be their like saving grace, if you will. Like, because at that point they're assuming we got to score as many points as possible on offense to have a chance to win these games. That's why they make that trade.
So shout outs to Deuce One Effects. I know you're a big Raiders guy. Rest in peace to my God, Carlos Cortez, who's one of the biggest Raiders guys I've ever had the pleasure of knowing in life. And I kind of called the way most of this was going to go down with the Raiders, unfortunately, this season. And I think Antonio Pierce. I think Antonio Pierce should hopefully get another shot at something like this elsewhere. I really have to say that. I don't think any of this is his fault or that he's done a poor job as a head coach over there overall.
No, not at all. If they try to fire him, it's a scapegoat situation. Quite frankly, the Raiders just need to blow it all up. Trade away all the players that what was that GM? Was it Mike Mayock or something like that? Him and Gruden selected. Get rid of all those guys. Bring in your own people. Let Pierce do it his own way. That's the only way they're going to get that right.
Yeah, but that's not what's going to happen, right? So unfortunately, when these things happen and a good, there's so many examples, but the Browns are like always.
The Raiders aren't a good organization either, so they're not going to do the right thing.
And that's it, right? They're not going to. When you bring in an interim head coach type situation and you roll with him, it's really up to him to prove that he's the guy, and he's made stark changes and and has driven results. None of those things have happened. And again, it's really got more to do with the actual financial situation that the Raiders are in at this present time. So it's unfortunate. I'm pretty sure that by the end, not by the end of the season, but by next season, we'll likely be looking at a whole new Las Vegas Raiders roster from top to bottom, potentially new GM, definitely new. Well, I'll back up on the GM piece because it's the former New England guy. He's got some good pull there, so he might stick around, but definitely new head coach, obviously new wide receiver, very likely new quarterback.
Yep.
And the running back situation ain't looking all that great either.
And I think them trading away Adams is a clear indication that Pierce is probably safe for another season, just for the simple fact that they're probably blowing it up for the sake of draft capital to try to get themselves a quarterback coming out this year. There's a couple of decent guys who might have some potential, so it only makes sense.
That's a good way of looking at it, and I'm going to agree with you with this being the odd auspice here, right? So the weird way to look at it is that they might hang on to Antonio Pierce for one more year if it's already nuclear, right? Like that's kind of where we are. If Devontae's gone, you don't really have a quarterback. You need to get somebody in that position. You don't really have a running back. You need to get somebody in that position as well as bolster the defense. You pretty much have a whole lot of work in front of you. And do you want a brand new coach to come in at the bottom floor of all that, or do you want him to come in when things are starting to sort of move forward? So, maybe Pierce outlasts some of this for another year, but even then, I don't think any of this bodes well for his tenure in Vegas. And I think the writing is somewhat on the wall, especially if they cut bait on Davante Adams and let him go, give him the contract and all that. So, go ahead.
Well, I think there's a few things going on here. Number one, the first thing that comes to my mind is I don't know how any of this is Antonio Pierce's fault. Number one. The second thing I think is I think back to that run that they had when they had old ass Jerry Rice and Tim Brown, and can't remember who that quarterback was, but that was who was it?
Probably Jeff Hostetler. Like you went back, bro. Like
it was I can't think of his name, but that was the last time they were seriously relevant. If you really think about it, no, it wasn't Hostetler. It was
Hostetler, Rich Gannon. Those are the two guys.
Rich Gannon was there.
Gannon, Hostetler was the backup. Hostetler got them to the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm thinking about Rich Gannon. So since then, and it goes to show you that when you don't have the quarterback position right, and you can't get the right head coach for that quarterback, everybody's vulnerable, even your great players. Look at the great receivers they've had. They've had Randy Moss. Could not stick, could not stay. He knew it was a funky situation, and he stunk his way out of there. Same thing with Antonio Brown. Now we got Davante Adams. So I don't blame any of this on Antonio Pierce. What he's trying to do, he's trying to build a team into his image. That's what every head coach wants to do. Build a team that takes on his personality. Rough, tough, and he wants to play physical football, and he needs a quarterback that's really manage the game and not defeat them for the most part. And he's looking for that. And when you don't have that quarterback right, all the blame is gonna fall in your lap, whether it's culpable or not. It's unfortunate for Antonio Pierce, but I blame none of this on him.
Like just to be clear here, perspective is really in the eye of the beholder is the first thing to say, right? So from where we sit, I couldn't say that Antonio Pierce has anything to do with the trajectory of the Vegas Raiders right now. It really isn't on him. He started in a funky situation, right? Like that's he took over a funky situation. That situation is just continuing, and unfortunately, it's getting worse at really no fault of his own. But unfortunately, I don't see that no fault situation saving his job for a very long time. So, he may last through this season given what it is. But after next season, he really would need to prove himself. And I mean that by saying he needs to, that team needs to win some games next season so that he can stick around and really start to build out the team you're talking about. They're King of Pop. That's my thoughts there. But outside of that, I don't know. He's in a stinky situation, bro.
If he's on your fantasy team, speaking of Davante Adams, Redbeard, I don't know who's scared to debate who, but you're talking to the wrong guy. But
yeah,
what's up, Red? What's wrong, Redbeard, man? That's a very statement to make.
Yeah, but, what I wanted to say is, do you think instantly he becomes a fantasy, talking about Davante Adams, you think instantly that he becomes a fantasy point maker? I mean, he hasn't really played all year. You know what I mean? For the most part, he's been out for several weeks. Is it going to take, he's going into a brand new system. And we're here to talk about fantasy football and what kind of viability does this player have on
At least
your
it's
team.
the same system from Green Bay, so he should have some verbiage familiarity, which should be to his benefit. I didn't mean to cut you off there. My bad.
No, you all good. I mean, that history they have together really will bode well. I think, be honest with you,
played there for like 10 seasons almost in Green Bay, like 8 to 10. Essentially been doing the same stuff there the entire time, and he was with Rodgers the whole time. I mean, there's reason to believe it'd be instant, but I don't think it'll be instant. The Jets in general, that offense, I'm still just kind of wishy-washy with. It's like I don't think Adams comes in and makes it that much better. Like on paper, it does, yes, and then from a secondary standpoint on the offense, it does. He still has no time to throw with that offensive line. Like, did anyone see the game last night? Like they were rushing 2, and he still got pressured. They rushed 2, and he still got pressured. That line is bad.
Well, let's get a little bit deeper into what you just brought up, though, dude. You just brought up the verbiage, right, and the familiarity of the offense. I'm not sure Nathaniel Hackett is in favor over there anymore at all. I understand he got demoted as well, given the whole shakeup.
It's still the same offense, though, if you will. Like
I hope so.
I hope Shanahan style offense, because they brought in LaFleur's younger brother to be the OC initially, and then they got rid of him and they brought someone else in from that tree. And then once they got Rodgers, they freaking brought in Hackett. So it's essentially that wide zone West Coast passing, scheme. So
I think he's gonna pop right off, Nick. But what you said is probably gonna end up coming back to haunt him more than anything else. Is that offensive line was leaking, like leaking bad. Like the oil was just all up and down the highway. I mean, it's bad
everywhere. That oil was everywhere.
Well, that's like, this all boils down to like, does this make Davante Adams fantasy relevant again? Does this also make Aaron Rodgers fantasy relevant again? And I don't think it does. Hate to say this crazy stuff, and I'm sure there's Jets fans out there somewhere in the world. I know a couple of them, and I tell the story every so often, but my son's best friend, he's a diehard Jets fan. Raised him like he's my son. End of the day, about like 2008, I'm watching football. I'm watching Aaron Rodgers, or whenever, I don't know. I'm watching Aaron Rodgers play football, and I look at him. I'm like, man, kid, in about 10 years, this guy's going to wind up on your team, and it ain't going to work then either. And I'm just like, make sure that you remember this when we have a conversation and it actually happens in the future. Just remember. And I said it to him a bunch of times to make sure that he remembered. We've had this conversation since the Rodgers trade and immediate sidelining injury of Aaron Rodgers. And I said, see, I told you it wouldn't work. I'm not sure, like, to be frank here, I thought it was going to I thought I was going to eat my words at the beginning of this season. I thought the Jets had just about everything lined up for success. They've got a fantastic wide receiver, fantastic cornerback on the other side of the ball. That defense is on paper, it's a nasty defense, bro.
I just go to show you the difference on paper and actual, when it actualizes on the field. How much sense does it make then?
It can be two completely different things. It's really about execution and planning and scheming, and somewhere in the middle of all that, something ain't happening. And I think a lot of it is just that offensive line and how their ability to protect Aaron Rodgers. So if that offensive line is as bad as Nick happened to say, I believe you. I didn't watch the game last night. I had other things to do. Plus, I would love to avoid watching Jets football on purpose. But in any event, you know what I mean. In any event, I just don't see all of it. So Alan Lazard's over there. He's got that same connection with Aaron Rodgers. There's been a couple of passes to him. I just don't see, like, if Davante Adams comes over there and starts eating all the passes, I can see a young rookie get real mad as well. So let's put that up there too. This is just a recipe for disaster, guys, and that's my 2 cents. That's where I am with this whole Davante Adams Raiders slash Jets thing. I think it's kind of all bad. At the beginning of the year, I did call for a potential Jets Super Bowl berth. I don't see that being the case at all. You don't fire your head coach and go to the Super Bowl. I ain't seen that in the NFL yet. So.
If you don't mind, I'd like to address something Nod is saying, one of our members, man, with the wrench. He said he's wondering if Garrett Wilson's fantasy points will go down. Absolutely. Absolutely, Nod. I have no doubts about that. How much they'll go down and how bad his numbers kind of wane, that's anybody's guess, but the way it looked last time those two were together, talking about Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams, he got heavy rotation, and you got your pass here and there to Lazard and Randall Cobb here and there, but most of it went heavily towards Davante Adams.
Well, it is what it is. We'll see what they do. They can really, like. He's an amazing wide receiver, and the connection between those two guys is a thing. So we'll have to see how that translates to the field in green, in New York. I just don't, man. I don't believe it. I don't see it. Same token, Nudge. I'm a second everything Nomad is saying here about your Garrett Wilson question. Unfortunately, I see that reducing his targets and reducing his overall output.
See, I mean, I talked about this a while back, a few episodes before. If they were to
maybe it opens it up. Maybe it opens them up.
I think it'll be just fine, just for the simple fact that Naj said defenses can't cover both of them. So there's going to be one game where Wilson goes crazy. There's going to be one game where Adams goes crazy. There's going to be a game where they both get fed. I mean, Rodgers isn't a one-read guy. Are we forgetting who Aaron Rodgers is? Mr. No-look pass. You get a pass. You get a pass. You get a pass. You get a touchdown. You get a touchdown. Everyone's getting touchdowns. Like, they'll be okay.
So,
but that's if he had time to throw.
I don't know what I don't know what that guy was. Let me see. Who was he talking about? He's talking about Garrett Wilson. I don't know what he was good for point-wise yesterday, but I know that volume ain't going to be there. That's all I can say. How that looks, who knows? But that kind of volume, it won't be there once Davante Adams is there.
It's a best way to sort of scope it, right?
Nick is right about the part about you can only, if you're going to shade coverage, there's only one guy you can do that to. So it's a back and forth. Two ways to think about it.
And both schools of thought are actually correct here, man. I have to sort of say the target share will go down, but the actual output might go up, right? He might actually secure more balls. He might get more yak on more targets where he's single covered, right? So it's an interesting look. I wouldn't go benching Garrett Wilson anytime soon. And I'll also have to say I wouldn't go benching Davante Adams anytime soon either. But then again, I think he's still hurt. So you might not get to see any of that experiment until
that motherfucker ain't hurt. He was just bullshitting this. He was gonna stay on IR and stay hurt.
Okay. That I believe too. He looked great today, man. I seen him on Pat McAfee.
He'll be out there Sunday.
Okay. That's terrible. Yeah. So Redbeard, just to dead this whole conversation, give you a little bit of love. It's got everything to do with the type of language that particular person uses in our channels. Outside of that, we've had him on this show. sorry, not this show, but on our other shows. There's no hatred there or anything to that effect, and no hatred for Tyson Bagent or anybody's specific takes. Fact of the matter is, we at least me, I definitely appreciate all the takes, man. So not a big deal. But onto other things.
Let me go on and kill it, because Redbeard, man, look, if you watch the show long enough and you pay attention to how we go about things, man, everybody comes in and everybody has all kinds of discourse about whatever. It's not about, whether I agree or disagree with anybody. That's not the point, But when you I don't hardly ever touch that ban button, to be honest with you. There's a lot of people get on me for saying, man, well, how come you don't ban this guy? Talking about Don Burr and stuff like that. He's constantly disagreeing with me, but it's about the way you present yourself, man. If I ask you not to say certain things that appear to be homophobic or anything like that, and you continue to do that and disregard what I ask you to do, you come to our space, I'm gonna piss on the territory and do what I gotta do. So that's just the bottom line. Whoever don't like that just don't like it.
That's it. That's all that it is. It's just, even in disrespect, you can be respectful. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to accept everybody else's take as your own. But in refuting that take, there's really no reason to call anybody out their name or anything to that effect.
Redbeard, it sounds cool with it. I appreciate that for just hearing me out, Redbeard. I just appreciate you for just that.
Yeah, and I didn't mind addressing it here on SuperFlex, given the forum and the conversation in the chat. The reality here is I've been on multiple shows with the person in question, and I do have an understanding of a little bit of his personality. He can be very brash, right? So that's where the ban came.
Call it for what it is. It's bullying.
Yeah. There you have it. But outside of that, again, welcome just to have any takes that you want as far as football is concerned. Nobody has a problem with that here. That's for sure. Anyhow, speaking of
videos, person disrespecting our channel, you know what I mean? Like, so I'm not trying to sit here and listen to people saying that he's not disrespectful, that he's not this and not that. That's a bunch of bullshit. I'm not trying to hear it. I'm just not.
It's all good. I think Redbeard understands. He let me know. He said he ain't got no problem with it.
Yeah.
Anybody who thinks the Earth is flat shouldn't be entertained. They just gotta lay off the drugs. It's that simple.
Well, maybe it is flat. Huh? See what I did there?
I mean, maybe. But I'm also on PC.
You're not going down this particular rabbit hole. Back to fantasy football, Anyhow, I'll end it with this, Redbeard, just for you. This person has actually done shows on our channel specifically. Yet we've continued to have him on and continue to allow him in the chat to do what he wants to do. So don't think anybody's singling him out and making a thing about him. We really don't care at all. Yeah. Anyways, back to fantasy. Where should we go here? Should we go? Let's since we were talking a little bit of Bears. Let's gloat.
I had a day with my Bears. I still lost though. But I had a day with my Bears.
You guys were razzing me all Sunday, and I deserved it all because somehow I messed up all of my. I mismanaged both of my teams that had Bears strewn across them. The only upside here was that I did not select that Romo Dunze waiver wire pick and stayed with Keenan Allen. And Keenan Allen had a field day. The downside for me was with everybody else. As far as optimization is concerned, sometimes you got to check that optimize button before you press it, because it put Justin Fields up instead of Caleb Williams for some crazy reason, and Caleb put up 30+ on the week, and Justin Fields did not do quite as good, right? So lost out on the quarterback piece, lost out on Cole Kmet on the bench. I benched him for Sam Laporta, who had a decent week in fantasy football, but let's be honest, y'all. Let's talk about them tight ends, because tight ends just ain't what they used to be. I'll just put that out there. But anyhow, if they are, their names are like George Kittle right now, who's doing great. Mark Andrews right now is coming back into business. and Cole Kmet, y'all. Cole Kmet is a lock. Like, he's a lock. Find him. Get him. If he's available in your league, if he's sitting on waiver by chance, by hook or by crook, go get that guy. Cole Kmet's a real deal, and I don't really see much slowing down his touchdown production. I don't think he's going to get a whole lot of targets. I don't think he's going to get a whole lot of yardage. But TD production, I think Cole Kmet's a great look throughout the rest of the season. Now, back to that quarterback, y'all. What did y'all think about Sunday's game?
What quarterback we talking about?
I'm talking about Caleb Williams.
Loved it.
Oh, yeah.
23 for 29, 226 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, 4 carries for 56 yards, 29.64 total fantasy points. I'll take it.
Yeah, sound pretty good to me too. No, right, yeah. Anyways, like this, the kid's lighting it up. I have nothing negative to say except for the fact that Week 7 is a bye week for the Chicago Bears, as well as the Dallas Cowboys. So all y'all Dallas Cowboys fans, that I'm sorry.
I think the best thing to talk about, I think Caleb Williams he's rostered pretty much everywhere. I don't care what fantasy league you're talking about. Who are the viable backups? If you got a quarterback situation going on this week, who are the viable backups is the better conversation to me. And I think it's a few of them out there.
Well, we'll definitely get there. Viable backup QBs. Is there anyone that you're thinking of note?
Well, I would have said Justin Fields to about 8 hours ago. Now it sounds like he may be getting set just to see if Russell Wilson is better. I don't know. I don't think it's 100% set in stone that it's going to be Russell this week, but it sounds like it kind of.
So, word on the streets was that Russell Wilson was going to start, and then so
Tom's just practicing only with the ones.
Yes. So Tom Pelissero came out and said that Russell Wilson was practicing with the ones this week. And maybe 20 minutes later, Mike Tomlin came out and said, yes, Russell Wilson will be practicing with the ones, but so will Justin Fields. And maybe they may even split snaps in Sunday's game. They'll try to figure out a way to make a decision on what they, on the quarterback position before they start on Sunday. And again, it could result in a multi-snap situation by way of both of these quarterbacks, which is just crazy talk. So I don't know what to tell you, but I'll tell you this. I dumped Aaron Rodgers last week for Justin Fields. Like I just sort of told you guys I want to play Justin Fields instead of Caleb Williams. Whoops. If he's
whoops indeed.
Whoopsie daisy. Like the kid's been playing pretty decent. I thought the arrow was really pointing up for Justin Fields. I still do. I don't think this Russell Wilson flash in the pan is going to be anything more than that. I think he's going to go out there and go Steelers and lose, and they're going to put Justin Fields right back out there. So that's my 2 cents. But for Week 7, it's really touch and go as to who's going to be under center in Pittsburgh. Right? I have no clue who they're going to start.
Well, there are options out there, man. There's I still say Daniel Jones with the. I think with the Malik Neighbors coming back this week, Slayton is playing a whole lot better. He's starting to he's starting to bring something to the table. I think Daniel Jones, if you got that's one guy I can think of off the top of my head. I think he's and he runs the ball, and I think that gets lost in the sauce too. He could pick up yardage on the ground, and so I believe Daniel Jones, if you got a quarterback situation, you got a guy on the bye. I think he could be one of those guys that you like, damn it, I didn't pick him up and I had the opportunity. He can go off on the ground and in the air.
Yeah, I don't know if I can make that suggestion. So Daniel Jones is going up against Philadelphia this week. So it'll be a relatively tough matchup for him, especially in division. The other piece to like the stark reality is what the New York Giants are figuring out. Is that they have a really good wide receiver core. They actually do. So Wan'Dale Robinson's really good, y'all. He's great. Darius Slayton should not he should never have been slept on. I don't know why he wound up riding the pot. Oh, he was injured. But I'm just saying, Slayton's a really good wide receiver who tends to be overlooked. And I think that bodes well for contractual situations for the New York Giants. But in this here season, Daniel Jones kind of lucked out. He's got himself two really good wide receivers. And then, in my opinion, somebody who will be, in question to be one of the best wide receiving talents in the NFL over the course of the next few years, and that's Malik Neighbors. So he's got three guys there that are really tearing it up. And that running back situation in New York ain't crazy. It isn't terrible either. Devin Singletary's been in and out and hurt. He might be back again this week, so keep your eyes on that situation. But I got to look at.
I got some breaking news if you want to hear about it.
Give me 1 sec. Let me go through Tyrone Tracy and we'll hit the breaking news. But, long story, as I was saying, Tyrone Tracy, he's a viable running back for those New York Giants that King of Pop was sort of leading us through with Daniel Jones. I don't know if Daniel Jones is actually a quarterback yet. I kind of need to see this week. Realistically, I need to see this game against the Philadelphia Eagles and how he fares, because he will be set up with, again, a full complement of weapons. And as long as he can use them, I think he might be able to get one up over the Eagles this week. And if he can, great numbers, Daniel Jones might be a guy to keep in your back pocket. But if he can't, I don't know what to tell you. He's got weapons. It will just sort of lead to the proof in the pudding of Daniel Jones not being a guy. Anyhow, breaking news.
All right. Can you tell me who the Minnesota Vikings starting running back is?
Aaron Jones, except he's questionable as of last week.
So apparently it might be something worse than they may think. They may have thought individual. I mean, at the moment, because they just went and signed. They traded with the Texans for Cam Akers, per multiple reports. So that could affect some people's fantasy teams right now. It's probably going to be a whole bunch of people running out and scooping up Cam Akers, because they're probably going to put him and have him be a part of the offense right away, I'm sure.
I clearly have too many.
Talk about Amari Cooper yet either?
What's that?
Anybody talk about Amari Cooper?
No, we didn't. Ain't nobody say.
No, we didn't touch on the Amari Cooper trade. So he got sent. Where did he get sent?
The Bills.
He went to Buffalo.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's a good move.
I think it's a much better move than where he was at. Ain't nothing going on in Cleveland except for Jerry Jeudy. Let's be real about that one. Jerry Judy's like the he's like the Owen Hart of Cleveland. Like, wrestling fans will sort of have to figure that comment out. In any event,
don't go near any rafters, Jerry Jeudy. Stay away from the rafters. Don't go in that harness.
that was not the reference, but I'll explain. I'll explain the Owen Hart.
I went there. Sorry.
I know you did. You did. You went deep with the Owen Hart. So the Owen Hart reference is actually just there's one promo where Shawn Michaels called him the nugget of poop that you can't flush in the toilet, and you just keep flushing, the poop nugget just keeps rising back to the top. You can't get rid of it, and that's Owen Hart. Unfortunately, the rafters got rid of him. Ouch. So in any event, they just kind of can't get rid of this guy. You know what I'm saying? He's there. He sticks around. He gets things done. Puts up decent numbers. I don't, I'm kind of hoping somebody rescues him off of that roster too. Anyhow, I think Jerry Jeudy's a really good wide receiver and in the wrongest place you could possibly be in the NFL right now. So saying that, I think Amari Cooper felt similar because he's now a Buffalo Bill. And I think the Bills really needed a bit of a boost by way of that wide receiver core. Even then, they got guys that are just not playing. I don't know what's going on with their offense.
Would you start Amari Cooper this week?
Yeah. No reason why not.
You would start Amari Cooper this week. Mm-hmm. And he's brand new to the system.
Yeah. I would.
Okay.
Ain't nobody else doing anything over there by way of catching the ball. So Who's he? You know what I mean? Who's he threatening? It might take him a week or two to really get used to the system, but they could put him out there to run a couple of routes, man. He's a consummate wide receiver who's been on multiple teams and probably really has a great understanding of offense across the board.
Now, there is a difference. Like you're thinking about Davante Adams having Aaron Rodgers and having structure understanding with Aaron Rodgers, knowing that he's coming into the same kind of thing that he was dealing with in Green Bay. He knows the calls, he knows all that kind of stuff, the verbiage, versus Amari Cooper, who's walking into a situation where he's never played with this quarterback, don't know jack shit about him other than what he saw on TV, and it's a brand new offense to him. The starter, Amari Cooper, just in my 2 cents, my instincts tell me no, I don't think it's good right away, but that's my opinion. You think differently, but I wouldn't, not right off the top.
I think he's a veteran wide receiver, man. He's played on multiple teams. He's been in multiple offenses. I think he'll pick it up real quick, man. That's just me. If it was somebody else, I might not say that. If it was, rookie, somebody a couple of years who hasn't experienced multiple offenses, I might say that. But I think Amari Cooper at this point in his career is seasoned enough to handle it. That's me. But yeah. So, breaking news. Amari Cooper is now a Buffalo Bill. Crazy stuff out there. So, Cooper's gone. Davante Adams is now a New York Jet. Talked a little bit about Daniel Jones as a potential quarterback pickup if you really need to do it. I ain't going to do it. I'll just tell you all that. Mind you, I would not shy away from any of those three wide receivers, which is crazy. Right? So maybe he's a quarterback, guys. Maybe he is. Maybe he's just enough quarterback to get production out of these three super talented wide receivers. So if you need a guy, he's out there. Wish I could argue with that.
We're talking about Amari Cooper since you just got in. Amari Cooper got traded to Buffalo.
Yes, sir. Amari Cooper's gone. And Davante Adams is also a New York Jet. So just quick little rehash. A couple of guys that I think look at who's trending up here. Almost across the board. So we've got Romeo Doubs trending up. We've got Alan Lazard trending up. This whole Green Bay in New York is a whole new thing. So folks believe that's for some reason Alan Lazard's numbers are going to go up. I don't see that. I would dodge it like the play. That's just me. Josh Downs, however, different story. Josh Downs is getting things done. Oddly, been a couple of weeks now. We're getting a little bit of a trend. So snap count 62% in week 4, up from 57% in week 3, 61% in week 5, 79% in week 6, going into Miami in week 7. As far as targets, 5 targets week 3, 9 in week 4, 12 in week 5, 9 in week 6. End of the day, 4 touchdowns in week 6, a touchdown each in week 4 and 5. Kid's doing pretty well, putting up 20-plus fantasy football points week on week here.
Yeah, he's been a sleeper for my team. Big time sleeper.
I can't argue with it. Pay attention out there. There's the guy we were just talking about, Jerry Jeudy as well. The rough couple of weeks for Jerry Jeudy. I don't know, guys. First couple of weeks here, decent numbers. These last couple of weeks have been terrible, and you just got to point the finger at Deshaun Watson. Unfortunately, it's a sad story over there. As far as other quarterbacks that we should also talk about, there's a young rookie who started in New England this weekend. His name is Drake May. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's the second coming of Tom Brady, and I'm going to specifically say that he's not. But that don't mean he's not a good quarterback, right? So he's
telling me that you would, if you had a quarterback situation going on, you put Drake May in.
Who are the New England Patriots playing this week? I actually just might put in, if I'm desperate, I might put in a Drake May. I would probably lean more towards picking up Drake May's wide receivers than actually starting Drake May as a quarterback. Because what's happened now is these guys are starting to actually receive semi-decent passes.
If you got Drake May in your starting lineup, Deshaun Watson is your only option.
No love for Drake May. Mad hate for Drake. Huh?
Come on, man. Drake May?
I'm just bro, he had a pretty decent week this week. He really did. He really had a pretty decent week, and I can't knock that. I think it's something that everybody should pay a little bit of attention to, and more importantly, pay attention to. Here we go. Let's look at Drake May. So on the week, 24. Yeah, man, there's a bunch of quarterbacks who put up worse numbers than this week. I'll tell you that right now. So 24 points from a fantasy perspective. Obviously, he played 100% of offensive snaps, 33 attempts. That's pretty high for a quarterback. But hey, obviously, stuff ain't working in New England. So, hoist the rock if you gotta. 20 completions out of 33. That's pretty good numbers. 243 yards in his starting debut football game against a Houston Texans team who ate our lunch earlier in the season. So these are all important factors that I want you guys to sort of point to.
Who's he playing again this week?
Holy smokes. You guys better go get Drake May and start him this week if you got a problem. I'll put it out there again. So my guy was saying, Deshaun Watson's your only option, but I'm just going to say that ain't nothing good happening in Jacksonville. Okay, so Drake May goes up against the Jacksonville Jaguars in what will likely be a get-right game for the Jacksonville Jaguars. But that doesn't mean that he's not going to put up a couple of touchdowns on this team. Whereas he put up 3 last week in his debut, 2 interceptions, but 3 TDs. Right? So these are all pretty stellar numbers for a rookie having his first debut foray out there against a pretty tough Houston Texans defense. Their secondary is good. Their pass rush is on point. So I have a feeling that he's going to do some damage in Jacksonville this coming week as well. But more importantly, take a look at his wide receivers. I can almost guarantee you most of them are going to be floating around your waiver wire. Like this guy, Mario Douglas, 24 points this past week, 62% snap, 9 targets, 6 receptions, 92 yards on the game, and a tutty. And that's not a far cry from these last few weeks. Like if we're looking at trends, even without Drake May in the offense, Mario Douglas has been putting up respectable numbers. 17 points in week 3, 14 points in week 5 against a tough Miami Dolphins team before Drake May joined the squad and started. So I think in a bye week situation where you might be scrambling and looking for things to do, with the Cowboys off this week, with the Bears off this week, for all you Bears fans out there, wouldn't be crazy to look at a guy like a Demario Douglas. Wouldn't be crazy to look at a quarterback like Drake May. There's another wide receiver over there in New England that's worth a conversation too, but I gotta find it. See what I did, man? See how I proved that whole theory through? Sounded foolish at the beginning, didn't it?
I'm like Joel. I'm like Joel Midran. I'm like Joel Midran. Drake May is a start if you have nothing but a must pickup.
Hey, man, again, he's a start against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I would definitely throw it. It would only get better if he was playing the Carolina Panthers.
Well, I want to slow you down, man, because we do got an 8:00 show, so let me shut up.
All right. And here's Kayshawn Booty. So Kayshawn put up another 16 points here this week. Things have not trended in his favor over the previous weeks. Let's be honest about that. But the second that Drake May showed up, he started putting up some numbers, including a touchdown. So keep your eyes peeled.
About his Husky Jalen Polk, man. He said he wants you to talk about that.
Jalen Polk.
The Polk.
Really? Let me take a look and see if I got some Jalen Polk words here. Man. Look, yeah, I got nothing for you with Jalen Polk. I got nothing for you, bro. So I'm looking at these numbers here. The only thing that's really trending in the right direction for Jalen Polk is his snaps. Like, he gets out there, he plays. He's not getting a lot of targets. He's
due for one, man. He says he's due for one, man.
Well, again, if the kid shows up here and he starts playing and he starts to continue to stack viable games, don't be surprised if a Jalen Polk doesn't really start to step into that true number 3 role.
I'd be silly for not mentioning this. This is a very, very nuanced fantasy thing that I think people should pay attention to. Now, remember, Drake May has spent the entire offseason dealing with the backups, the second string guys, and Jalen Polk is one of those guys. So whenever you got a guy that comes off the bench somewhere at this part of the season, all the guys he's comfortable with, Jalen Polk is gonna be one of those guys. He's gonna target those guys because he's got symmetry with them. He's been working with them all off season. So while we're laughing at Naj's point, there's some I can circle that and say with some strong indication that you might start hearing this name pop up a lot more.
I'm going to agree with that. I'm also going to layer on a little something else. So strangely, they've given Drake May first team snaps at like a 50% clip, at a much higher clip than any of us would expect. And it was really just, hey, like, we don't care about whoever's starting. We don't. Let's just get this guy some development snaps. So he's been actually working with the first team a lot more frequently than most backup quarterbacks would. As such, we saw a pretty good debut from the kid this past week. So keep your eyes peeled in that respect. I think it's worth a look. Other guys to have quick conversations about. How about this guy? So there's good old Juju Smith-Schuster, everybody's favorite ex-Pittsburgh Steeler, ex-Kansas City Chief, ex-New England Patriot, now a Kansas City Chief again. Lots of injury out there in Kansas City, unfortunately, with Rashee Rice. The real upside for Juju Smith-Schuster, who was promptly cut by the New England Patriots earlier this season, he gets to step right into the Rashee Rice role. And in 1 week, because, again, he's familiar with the team, the offense, the verbiage, all stuff that he's gone through during his tenure with the Kansas City Chiefs, he's back, jumps right into the role, puts up 25 points, 25 fantasy points on 67 snaps, 130 yards receiving, no touchdowns on the week, 130 yards receiving on eight targets. That's pretty crazy. That's pretty huge. So if this was another guy, another team, in another situation, I might not suggest you go get him, but go get this guy. He's only rostered in 34% of leagues out there. He's on the Super Bowl champion Chiefs with probably the best quarterback in the entire league. I don't know where else the targets are going to go, because for all intents and purposes, I don't know if you've been looking at Travis Kelce's numbers, but I've got Travis Kelce rostered on a bunch of my teams, and he ain't pretty numbers. So the targets have to go somewhere. That being the case, I think he's the somewhere. I also think Xavier Worthy's the somewhere. So between those two guys, lots of yak, lots of yardage, lots of touchdowns in Kansas City to be had. Okay. Juju Smith-Schuster, y'all. Keep your eyes peeled. Anybody else I wanted to talk about on this wide receiver situation? You don't want to
talk about Gabe Davis, do you?
I don't want to talk about this guy at all. He's on a terrible football team. I dumped him this week. This guy scoops him up, and somehow out of the wood, like let's talk about Gabe Davis. Damn it, let's talk. So 12 points in week 1 against a Miami team. Week 2 against a much weaker Cleveland team, 9 points. 4 points against a Buffalo Bills who, he should have had a revenge game against. No revenge. Buffalo Bills eat their lunch. 4 points. Houston Texans, 0.80, as in 0 points with like 0.8 yards. It's a terrible, terrible situation for Gabe Davis. And man, week 5 ain't much better. 5 points. Somehow out of the woodwork against Chicago, Gabe Davis comes flying off the bench for 23 points, 8 targets, 45 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I don't even understand it. So there's this thing they call boom or bust. And that's kind of what Nate Davis is. Oh, did I say Nate Davis? I did, didn't I? Wow, Freudian slip if ever. Gabe Davis. That's super funny. All Bears fans out there know what I'm talking about. In any event, yeah, man, Gabe Davis, super boom and bust. Fantastic week this week. He's going up against the New England Patriots. For all intents and purposes, I have to be frank here. I think this is going to be a get-right game for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I said it earlier on. So I expect there to be some targets for Gabe Davis. I think he'll come away with some stuff. I don't see 2 touchdowns again. Like I'm pretty sure those tutties should have gone to either Christian Kirk or Brian Thomas Jr. But testing that Chicago secondary is just not a smart move for any quarterback in the NFL. I'll just put that out there right now, too.
There's a guy named Joel in the chat that wants to know about the guy on the damn thumbnail, and that is Sean Tucker. And what's his viability in the fantasy world? What do you think about that?
Sean Tucker. Let's take a look at Mr. Tucker.
I had him ranked high when he came out, man. I thought he'd be a good piece for whoever got him. And he's finally showing, when given opportunity, he can put up.
I didn't think he would be the guy on this team. That's for sure. Never thought he would be the guy. I thought it would wind up being one of my personal favorite backs in this year's draft, and that's Bucky Irving. I thought Bucky Irving would have sort of taken off behind Rachaad White. With Rachaad White hurt, somebody's got to carry that rock. And let's be frank, they run like sleeper Super Bowl team here. As much as everybody probably wants to ignore this, sleeper Super Bowl team. Fantastic wide receiver core. This quarterback has a bone to pick. You know what I mean? He has a chip on his shoulder.
I respect this take. I respect it.
Me too, bro. I really do. And that's why I'm saying a sleeper. I think Baker Mayfield is with that chip on his shoulder. He's playing lights out. He's playing great football.
Baker's always been this good.
I think so. I agree. I'm in full agreement with you. I think the Cleveland Browns made one of the grandest, the grandest mistakes in the NFL. First of all, was cutting bait on him. Second was obviously trading and paying Deshaun Watson. Third was basically building the Bears and the Texans out of that trade. So
right.
What a travesty.
Getting rid of Baker got us Caleb.
Yeah. and the potential is, maybe these guys actually do some damage because of that trade too. And that would just be the grandest slap in the face for Cleveland Browns fans everywhere, right? Man.
It'll happen. I mean, they traded away the guy who won them their first playoff game in my entire existence.
Yeah.
For Deshaun, which I get the idea, but like the timing and everything, terrible.
No, there's no applauding it as an idea, and I know Browns fans themselves are like, this was just it was a mistake to begin with from the beginning. But why would you cut bait on a guy that you drafted and you're developing? Like that's on you, y'all. You know what I mean? You screwed up. And to be honest with you, there was nothing wrong with him. You guys cut bait on this guy and went
his
with somebody.
Was because he had a bad shoulder. He messed up his shoulder or whatever. He tore, like, I think it was the labrum on his, not his throwing shoulder, but his other shoulder. Regardless, is still a lot of pain and still is going to affect your throwing motions and everything about it, especially for a guy like Baker, who's a little smaller, who uses his whole body into his throws. It's kind of hard to do that when you got a torn shoulder, you know. Yeah. And then on top of that, they didn't really have, who did they really have for receiving options at that point? Did they have Amari Cooper?
No, man, they had receivers. Like, that ain't the problem. They had Jarvis Landry, they had Odell Beckham. Like, it's just the organization is terrible. They made a terrible decision. Had not, they had running backs. There was weapons there in Cleveland. Not to mention almost a decade of high-end draft picks due to systematic failure, right? Like, there was nothing wrong. That's how they got Baker in the first place. There was nothing wrong with the Cleveland Browns. They pushed the button, decided to put invest all of their money in a guy who would take all of that money and put it into massage parlors. And that's where we got it. He took the whole investment, put it into massage parlors, and here we are, right? So long story short, if for all intents and purposes, if Rachaad White is not playing this weekend, start this guy. If it's Bucky Irvin is the starting back, start him. Whoever that guy is, absolutely start him. Sean Tucker's a pretty solid back at the end of the day. He's Canadian too, just to throw this out there, just for all my Canucks out there. He was playing in Syracuse. He's from Ontario, Canada, and jumped over to Syracuse. I took a look at him in the draft. I like this kid. I think he's actually. I totally forgot about Sean Tucker, man. So they scored two really good backs out of this draft, man. Bucky and Sean. Man, I didn't realize that they got Sean.
Before you get into Deuce's $5 super chat, thank you for that, Deuce, man.
Thanks, brother.
Sean Tucker, here's the way you got to look
Canadian dollars too.
You got to look at it. Do you see Bucky Irving as a 3-down back? I don't think anybody does. I think Bucky Irving was intentionally brought him in. That's why they got two backs. They wanted a 3rd down back, and they wanted a guy that can go first to third, right? And Sean Tucker, without the starting running back there, he's proven that you should give him more touches. So I'd say it's going to be a tandem this week. I think they'll probably split touches just to see what happens, man. I like his viability this week. If you were to ask me, if I had a choice between he and Bucky Irving right now, I would call him right now, because if they get in a goal line situation, he's probably going to get the touches.
Okay, so I'm cluing back in. So they got Sean Tucker last year. He wound up sitting behind Rachaad White last year. Like I say, kid from Syracuse, from Canada. He's actually a really good back. He was in front of Chase Brown the year before, and Chase Brown wound up taking over for him in Syracuse, and he's doing, Chase Brown's doing very well out there too right now, I believe, for Cincinnati. Long story short, yeah, man, if you've got yourself a Sean Tucker, play him. And strangely, I feel like I might have frozen. Did I freeze?
For a minute. You all right?
All right, I'm back. Okay, just sorry, y'all. Internet's been a bit tricky as of late. But yeah, so that's Sean Tucker. Who else we got? Yeah. So Dearness Johnson's trending up. I have him on this list, but I'm just not going to talk about him. I think there's too much volatility with that backfield in Jacksonville to really give Dearness Johnson much love. Just got to be real on that one. All right. Yeah, like I would stress a Tank Bigsby over a Dearness Johnson. I would also stress a Tyler Algier. 26 points this week, 41% snaps. His snaps are pretty steady all the way through. He gets close to 50% of the snaps behind Bijan Robinson, but he's much more of a bruiser, and he seems to be vulturing TDs, right? So keep your eyes peeled on a Tyler Algier. He's also a very good pass catching back, which is very strange. So the more run he gets, the better. I would pay attention because at some point, especially if Bijan gets hurt, you may want to grab a Tyler Algier as a handcuff. Great guy to have as backup. Anybody else I wanted to really touch on this week? I think that's the bulk, but I am going to jump over to tight end to see if there's anything interesting. So Evan Ingram is interesting. If you're not, if you haven't started Evan Ingram, or if you're looking for a guy and he's available, get him. He's back and he's viable. Had 22 points this week against a pretty decent Chicago Bears defense in only a few snaps.
Is he? They're playing New England, right?
Yeah.
New England traditionally has been really good at taking away the tight end, but Bill Belichick's not there. And but to be frank with you, the head coach is Bill Belichick's disciple, and so I wouldn't say don't start Evan Ingram. I'd say think about the intangibles here. Like if they want to take that tight end out of the game, they can do that. The way they play defense in the box and really tighten up close, man. Evan Ingram, he can get kind of swallowed up this week. And don't forget I said that to you, but who knows? If you got confidence in him, go ahead and start him. But just think about that as an intangible.
All right. So there's a little bit of tight end love with Evan Ingram. I did talk about our guy Cole Kmet earlier on. He's in and around tight end 5 on the league on the season. But again, we've got a Bears bye week this week, so I won't spend too much time looking at Cole Kmet. But really good output from him thus far this season. Really good output from David Njoku. He is in no joke. 66% rostered, 32% started. Y'all should be starting this guy. He is that good. And the fact is, Sean Watson really doesn't have anywhere else to go with the ball. Mari Cooper's now gone. It's Jerry Jeudy or it's David Njoku. And Njoku's more of the safety blanket role, right? So I do expect to see pretty steady work for our guy David Njoku. Outside of that, like these tight ends aren't doing great. Tucker Kraft not really good output these last at least not this week against Arizona. They're going up against a tough Houston Texans team. So all you Packers fans out there, I hope you lose to the Texans. Let's just keep it as 100 as we can. Outside of that, yeah, these tight ends are hurting. Sam Laporta's not doing as well as one would think. Neither is Travis Kelce. But Mark Andrews is starting to sort of step back into viability again with a 17-point week, following up a 12-point week as a tight end. So pretty solid stuff there. Yeah, I think that basically covers things off for the most part. I would be looking at whoever's playing against Jacksonville. We've basically established that that's the New England Patriots this week. Take a look at those guys. Take a look at the New York Giants wide receiver core. Take a look at the New England Patriots wide receiver core. I think in either case this week and potentially for the next couple of weeks, you may find a little bit of diamond in the rough in that respect. If you're looking in the waiver wire. With that being said, though, I think we've covered just about everything we needed to this week for week 6 going into week 7. I'm going to say big shout outs to all you guys in the chat. Give you guys some love. Cam the Ham, what it do, Cam the Ham? Shout out to my guy, the Naj. Big love to my homie, Deuce One FX. Mad respect for the $5 super chat. Really appreciate it, brother. Shout out to Joel Midrin. Good thing we touched on that Sean Tucker for you. Mad shout outs to my guy. It's Crimson You Dig. Big love to you. Who else we got out there? Top 10 Sports. Shout out to Top 10 Sports. Double M. Thanks for coming through. AC Adam. Bear it down. Redbeard. What it do, my brother? What's up? Thanks for coming through. Hopefully we cleared all that stuff up. Black Rain. Thank you very much for coming through, Black Rain. Mad love to you as always. And super no maniac King Booker World. Big shout outs to you, bro. What are you saying there?
You mind if I get a word in before you close it out?
By all means.
Number one, come to the next show. We're about to be on at 8 p.m. Central. We got Brendan Shagru from the Bears Wire. He's going to jump on with us. We're going to talk about these trade wins. And will Ryan Poles be a buyer or seller? Who are some of those pieces out there that, do we think that Ryan Poles thinks that this team is on the surge for real? And if he does, will he act like that and be a buyer in the trade market? We're going to talk about that, plus some of the stuff that my guy Cam was talking about in the Cam and Joel, not Cam, but Joel was talking about in the chat about Braxton Jones. Hopefully we'll be able to touch on that a little bit. And don't forget, man, in this fantasy thing, this is a good time to make some trades right now. This is a good time to make some trades right now. Number one, we're approaching the trade deadline. Number two, there's a lot of players out there that haven't been putting up really good numbers thus far, and a lot of people are down on those key players that they have in their rosters. And so this is a good time to buy. They're gonna basically sell low. And so this is a good time to propose a trade, is what I'm saying to you guys. So keep that in mind, all you fantasy guys. It's a good time to go out there. Even if you think it's crazy, go ahead and propose that trade, man. You might be surprised what you get back.
He is not lying, Superflexers. There's injury out there that may spawn trading. There are quarterback issues that may spawn trading, and the two guys I'm talking about more specifically is Nico Collins, who's good for 20 points a week. Unfortunately, not the next couple of weeks because he's on IR. Fact is, that guy might be exactly what somebody else needs on their team. So by all means, see what you can do to arrange some sort of trickery to get something for Nico Collins right now while he's sitting in your IR spot. Similar conversations about Tyreek Hill. Without a viable quarterback in Tua turn the ball over, hey, you might want to do something with a Tyreek Hill right around now. So that being said, let's see what Week 7 has in store for us all. And it's been another week of the SuperFlex Fantasy Football Show. Nick, my brother, take us home.